back to the Newsfloor. My name is Valerie Lee, and I'm so happy you're back because we are talking about all the conversations, controversies, and news happening in and around the world of dance music, the nightlife industry. There's so much going on. We're going to listen to some of the best tracks, new releases, and Newsfloor picks of songs that I think you will love and you should definitely check out. And of course, interviews with your favorite artists and people from around the world of rave. So this week, there's some good news, there's some bad news, a little bit of both, but I'm happy to say that there is finally some good news related to the live music industry and how people are planning to reopen now that there has been some good news and developments related to a vaccine that should be coming sooner rather than later. So we're going to talk about what that means for the live music industry. We're going over to Germany to talk about and learn about why they have finally ruled that techno is officially considered music, which is a hilarious headline, but there are actually some more boring but tax-related implications to what that means. But it's good news for clubs, which is, again, more good news for the live music industry and for venues specifically. And then on a more serious note, we have to talk about this. This was the big news happening on social media earlier this week. Multiple women have come forward to report sexual assault and harassment by Derek May, a well-known name from Detroit in the music scene. So we're going to talk about that story and the details there. New tracks and releases from Lawrence Hart, from Bonobo and Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs, and I am so excited to welcome Natalie Maddox on. She is the founder of House Gospel Choir, and if you're not familiar with them, they are an incredible collective, so full of soul. They've just recently released a 13-track compilation called Required, and it is so good. It will truly uplift your day, your week, your month. So we're going to talk about how that came together and also going to listen to that. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good episode right here on the Newsfloor. Let's get right into the news this week. As I mentioned, thankfully there is some good news to start with related to the nightlife industry in this COVID-19 pandemic world. The first headline is a pretty funny one. German courts have ruled that techno is officially considered music, and this is for tax purposes. So this headline kind of circulated earlier this week and caused a bit of a stir. People were like, obviously techno is music, let's get over that. But really what this means is that Germany's Federal Fiscal Court, which is called the BFH, has determined that German clubs like Berghain and other really famous ones in Berlin can now be taxed the same at lower rates as traditional concert venues. So previously these clubs were actually forced to pay around a standard 19% value added tax on ticket sales, whereas concert venues, so places where maybe an orchestra or a singer might perform, were only required to pay 7%. So thankfully somebody brought this to court and the courts ruled on the side of the clubs, and they determined that the average visitor would be at the venue primarily for the music and the DJs, similar to concerts or performers. So that means regardless if the artist is a singer, instrumentalist, or a DJ, the ticket purchase reason remains the same so that the tax can now be lowered. So this is good news both for the venues and for ticket buyers, I believe. So unless you've been living under a rock for the past week, you've probably heard by now that there has been some really promising new developments that have come out regarding the imminent vaccines, some high success rates from not one but two different companies, which point to the potential of 2021 having more in-person live gatherings. And what this means is that live music and live event businesses are starting to plan for what audience experiences will look like in a post-pandemic world. I think all of us have gotten comfortable with the idea that shows or whatever kind of live gatherings you'll be attending won't be the same per se as they were when we didn't know what COVID-19 was and weren't fearful about that. But we are going to be moving slowly back into coming together in real life again and hopefully reviving the music business on the live side. So what that means right now is that businesses like Ticketmaster are building frameworks for what these experiences are going to be like. And even though these plans are still in the developmental phase, it looks like they are going to be asking for people to either provide evidence of a vaccine or a negative coronavirus test received 24 to 72 hours before the concert. So this is where the controversy kind of starts, because most of the time people's medical histories obviously have never had a part to play in what tickets you're buying or what events you're going to, and it's typically a very private thing. You don't really share your medical history or conditions with people regularly, but that was before a pandemic took over and this became a public health and safety issue. So the way that they kind of see this working is that you would be able to take a test if you needed, unless you could provide evidence of having a vaccine. And then fans would instruct labs to deliver the results to a health pass company, and that company would be in charge of delivering the results to Ticketmaster and proving that you have indeed either had a vaccination or have received a negative coronavirus test, and only then would the fan be granted their ticket and final access to the show. So this is a bit, I think there's a lot of kinks to be worked out here. Ticketmaster would not store or have access to fans' medical records, as they've stated in the article that came out in Billboard. They would only receive verification of whether a fan is cleared. So that is the relieving part. Ticketmaster won't actually hold your data, and I think that's why this kind of middle person health pass company will be involved in the process, so they will hold all of your private and sensitive information. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. To date, the FDA has not approved any third-party companies to provide real-time vaccination results, but likely as things start to open up again, not only will live events need this kind of service, but also airlines and theme parks and sporting events, which also fall under the Ticketmaster umbrella. So going to be interesting to see how this plays out, but good to also keep in mind that in the future, you could need to provide proof of not only your ID for a certain age of alcohol, but also maybe a vaccine and also a negative coronavirus test. How times have changed. So I hate to end the news segment on a bit of a negative note, but stories like this are important to share and report. It never gets easier, but it is really important to talk about them when they happen. Multiple women have come forward to report sexual assault and harassment by Derek May. Derek May, of course, is a well-known name in the dance music industry. He is a well-known Detroit DJ and producer who has operated for decades and decades, been accredited to being a pioneer of the genre of techno. And now several women have come forward with these reports and stories. There were two journalists that took the responsibility of telling these testimonials and actual detailed stories. One was Ellie Flynn, who wrote for DJ Mag, and one was Annabelle Ross, who wrote for Resident Advisor. I highly encourage you to go find these articles. We'll try and drop a link in the chat if you haven't seen them already. It doesn't do them justice to try and summarize what happened. You really need to read the stories from the women themselves. But the stories do date back to 20 years ago, all the way to recent times across the US, in the UK, and across Europe, and even in New Zealand. So some widespread actions there. The story itself about these allegations coming to light has a bit of a messy origin. It all started with a man named Michael James, who is a journalist and was a former friend of Derek May's, actually, who has actually had a long-running grievance with the producer over a classic track of his called Strings of Life. Some of the women actually had come forward saying that their personal information and details from their stories was shared by Michael James without their permission, which kind of talks about why this was a messy story to begin with. Derek May has actually denied the allegations and also filed a defamation lawsuit against James. Derek May did come forward with a response to the stories that came up, saying that as a Black man working in a white-dominated and openly biased industry, am I expected to have learned the painful lesson that there is no such thing as truth, fairness, or due process. So he has denied the allegations. I highly encourage you to go read the articles, read them for yourself, get to know these stories, and listen to women. And that's the news for this week on the Newsfloor. This week for Pete Tong's Essential New Tune, we have Lawrence Hart's new track called Try Repeat. Lawrence Hart is known for his work as a collaborator with George Fitzgerald, who is one of my favorite producers ever. Lawrence Hart has made actually a splash for his solo debut with a new EP called Surrender Yourself, and Try Repeat is actually the lead single off of that EP. Quite an accomplishment to have your first solo debut picked as Pete Tong's Essential New Tune. And it's easy to hear when you listen to the track why it made sense for him to be George Fitzgerald's collaborator. He's got his own take on this whimsical, melodic, and wonderful house music. So let's take a listen right now. For the Newsfloor track of the week this week, I am picking Bonobo and Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs 6,000 Feet. By now, you've probably heard their other collaborative track called Heartbreak, which was released together as a 2-track EP. The duo's big collaboration first was Heartbreak, which came out before their BBC Essential Mix came out. So good, I highly recommend you to listen to it. And for this week's track of the week, I wanted to feature the A-side. It's melodic, it's really warm, and it's beautiful. It already went into all of my playlists. It's that good. So it's out now on Bonobo's new label Outlier, and let's listen right now. Last but not least, for Newsfloor's pick of the week, I am so excited to welcome the creative director and founder of House Gospel Choir. Her name is Natalie Maddox. For those who don't know, House Gospel Choir is this wonderful collective that has come together to create this 13-track release called Required. It's spelled R-E/CHOIRED, Choired. Get it? It's a little play on words. I love that. And it was born out of a love for sound system culture, the healing power of house music, and this group came together to kind of channel that magic into music. They have brand new tracks from legends like Todd Terry, Wookie, Alex Metric, to name a few, and they also include covers of some favorite classics. So I highly recommend you to check out the album after this. We're going to hear from Natalie herself about the making of the album and get a sneak preview of a track that she chose. So let's get into it right now. Hi, Natalie. Thanks for joining me on the Newsfloor.
Hi, Valerie. Thanks for having me.
Really How's it going? Are you in London?
I am in London. It is 10 p.m. here. What time
I know.
Is
Thank you so much for joining me so late. It's 2 p.m. over here, so we're definitely on the opposite side of the spectrum.
No, we're up. Like, we're in lockdown number 2, so I don't mean,
yeah.
What's sleep anyway? I'm just
Staying
having that.
busy, right?
No, exactly.
Well, I'm so excited to have you on. You know, Required is this debut album that came out from House Gospel Choir, which you founded and are the creative director of. And it is such a fun and sort of like celebratory release, which I think is just something that I'm always really happy to share with people right now. I feel like people really want that kind of positivity. But before we get into the record, I want to take a step back and have you explain, for those who might be new and just getting to know you guys, what is House Gospel Choir?
House Gospel Choir is the place where the euphoria of the dance floor and spirituality of the church come together. Can you tell I practice that? But it's literally that. It's like raving and upliftment and just an opportunity to explore the things that can't really be explained. It's just those feelings that you can kind of sometimes tap into on a dance floor, sometimes in a church. But yeah, very necessary.
I love that. I feel like I've heard for so long and from so many kind of leaders of dance music that it truly is, it feels like a church experience where the people come together, your community, and everyone feels so uplifted by, you know, different sounds of dance music. So what a powerful debut, I gotta say, first of all. You know, these 13 tracks, you have so many incredible names like Todd Terry, DJ Spen, Alex Metric, just to name a few. And I also love that it's, you know, this diverse mix of new tracks, but also kind of new versions of classic favorites. I'd love to hear how you sort of started mapping out this album and how it took shape.
You know, I started the choir 6.5 years ago now, and the first song we learned was Beautiful People by Barbara Tucker, just because it's one of my favorite songs ever, and it just every time I've heard it, it just makes me feel better, like just an opportunity to look inside yourself and feel a bit, you know, a bit better generally. And what I found when we sung them together, it just is an opportunity for lots of people to feel the same way. So that is our starting point. It's like, what is the message of a song? And how well can we convey that when we perform it? So then we get to classics like Most Precious Love, which by Blaze and Barbara Tucker, and Hallelujah Anyway by Candy Staton. Gosh, what other covers are on there? And Gypsy Woman by Crystal Waters, which is just one of those songs you hear and have heard, like it's on every soundtrack, you know what I mean? Like every mixtape or mix CD for house records, but people rarely stop to think about the message and what she's actually singing about. And I think there's so many house tunes that are definitely were written to like kind of just explore the human condition, but because you're on a dance floor and it's all about euphoria and escape, you kind of don't always take the words in, take the message in. So that's the starting point for choosing what kind of records we cover. And then when we write the originals, it's like, okay, how can we like add to that canon of amazing records that make us feel something and make us look up? So that's what we set out to do.
I find it really interesting, listening to you explain it, because so much of what House Gospel Choir stands for is related to, the feeling that we all experience when we go out and listen to music and come together. I wonder, was there any sort of strategic thinking behind releasing the album now when we're actually so far away from the dance floor and unable to come together in that way?
No. No, it was more,
it's just a gift then.
Yeah, it's a real gift, and it was like actually a question about whether or not we should release it now when we can't go to clubs and can't be on the dance floor. But why can't you rave in your front room and your kitchen and your garden? Like these songs, obviously historically we listen to this type of music on the dance floor, but the dance floor is anywhere you make it, and whoever's near you can make it a rave. And that's why it felt really important to share this stuff now. And the feedback has been people are raving in their front room. You know what I mean? Like, yes. Or in their cars. So
I can only imagine. And I think that's the kind of beauty of it. I think if one thing we've learned from this crazy year is just learning to adapt, learning to adjust. And if we just need like a good record in order to feel inspired to dance together in our living rooms and gardens, like let this be the one.
Like it is just it's a really tough time. And we won't, I don't lie about how hard it's been to even keep connected to the choir. We found ways by doing like our a cappella videos, which is like church for us on a Sunday in many ways, or like even Zoom has been a real revelation for keeping us connected. But
well, tell me a little bit more about that. How what is the House Gospel Choir up to besides releasing this album? What should we be looking out for?
Gosh, what are we looking out for? So we do. We started doing, because we rehearse every Monday in a space in East London called the Rich Mix, and we've done that every Monday for like the past 6 years. So without being able to do that, it's been a bit like, oh, where's my family? Where's my mates? Where's my choir? So we got together with our musical director, whose name is Harrison, and figured out how to like put together these videos of us all singing together, even though it's a bit of like technology and a bit of camera.
A challenge.
Yeah, a real challenge. But people really responded well to them. And I think especially during the first lockdown here, it helped us feel like we were together still. And then the songs we chose were just ways to get us through each week. So they really resonated, and we're very fortunate to get some of the original vocalists to come and sing with us. So Crystal Waters did Gypsy Woman with us, and Barbara Tucker did Beautiful People. We've got a couple others coming up because it's lockdown number 2, so we're going to keep going again. We started another series of those. So you can look out for those every Sunday. Well, maybe not every Sunday because sometimes we need to sleep, but we're doing our best to keep going, even though it's hard.
That's another one of those silver lining things. Again, it's like, it sucks that we're not able to come together in person, but because we've all been forced to do these remote, calls or meetings, I feel like we've been able to actually see more from people that are harder to get in the building typically. So that's awesome. We'll keep an eye out for that. Well, I'm excited. Require is obviously out now, but for those who might be just about to dive into it, I would love for you to give a preview and maybe select a track that we're going to play after this interview for them to listen to right now.
There's 13 really good songs on there, in my opinion.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, but my favourite song at the moment, like it changes from week to week, is the record, which is our most recent single. It's called Everything Is Love. And it's produced by Todd Terry. And he was in London for like 3 days, and we got to do this session with him. And I went away and worked with another vocalist in the choir called Lizzie to produce and kind of get these words together. And it's a real love song to yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, Just sing it for you, and the messages follow your heart. Like if you're feeling lonely or feeling like you're lacking love in any moment, the sound of your own heart beating is proof that you have love inside of you all the time. So everything is love.
Love that. Couldn't end on a better note, I think. So we're going to get a first play of that right now. Thank you, Natalie, for joining me, and stay safe over there in London.
Thank you so much.
Let us finish off with the Stream Informer. If you don't follow them already on these social channels, you absolutely should. They do daily roundups of the best upcoming streams. They also have a newsletter that you can sign up for. But right here, they do a recap and pick a couple streams that you cannot miss for the week. So let's start with the recap. Last week, what did you miss? We ended things on a high note with Omar S., who took to the FXHE Records Twitch page for a special performance from Red Bull Arts Detroit. Red Bull Arts is actually currently showcasing a virtual pop-up exhibition on its website that celebrates Omar S., the Detroit legend, as well as a bunch of exclusive content. And this performance actually marked the second of three live streams that are taking place with Omar S. and Red Bull. So the third and final stream, if you missed them, there's still one more you can catch. That's happening in December. Date TBD, so keep an eye out for that. Now, let's look at what's coming up this week. There is so much going on. Starting on Friday, we are celebrating the inaugural release of SOS Music, a new label and collective born out of the LA online radio station Dub Lab. We love that. The stream is going to feature a really strong lineup of forward-thinking, kind of new artists, some that aren't so new, but really great artists all together, including Umfang, Roxy Moore, Violet, Nightwave, and many more. That's going to happen on the Public Records TV page at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on November 20th. And then on November 21st, the next day at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Leon Vinehall is set to debut a brand new audiovisual exploration in collaboration with Eric Timothy Carlson and Aaron Anderson. Really cool stuff. I can already anticipate that it's going to be an experience, so definitely check that out. The project was filmed by Child Studio and is set to be broadcast on Mixcloud Live, so check that out, and thanks to the Stream Informer for that info. With that, we're wrapping up yet another episode of the Newsfloor. Thank you for joining me. I am Valerie Lee, and I'm your host, and I'm so happy you come back every week to get the weekly download of what the hell is going on in the world of dance music and the nightlife industry. We're going to be back here next week, Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific time, right here on the Lost Resort TV channel. So do me a favor, follow, subscribe. I hope to see you in the chat next week. And of course, we are on the social pages at the Newsfloor. Give us a follow there as well. We share some of the best clips in case you missed anything. And be safe out there. Put your mask on. Things are getting a little crazy, and we are so close to getting back to normal in 2021. So we got to do our part. Wear your mask, stay inside. Have a good one, and I will see you next week.